I found my seat in the back, third row from the kitchen doors. No flowers. No family nearby. Just a folded place card. Ivory. Gold trim. But it didn't say Mom. It didn't even say my name. Unwanted Relic. That's what they wrote. Right there. In cursive. Like it was part of the design. I didn't cry. I didn't get up. I just adjusted my shawl and smoothed the napkin across my lap. That's fine. Let the speeches begin. I used to start my mornings before the birds. The house was quiet then. Honest quiet, not the kind that follows slammed doors. The kettle would sing at exactly 5:45. I never needed an alarm. The old oak outside my window rustled like a gentle nudge. Chamomile. 1 sugar. Same chipped blue mug from 1984. Not because I had no others, but because it fit my hands just right. My husband, Thomas, used to say the kitchen smiled when I walked in. I believed him. It had been just me for the last 11 years. But not a sad kind of alone. A peaceful kind. I'd fill the feeders, tend the roses, hum an old tune. Sometimes I'd talk to the furniture. They never talked back, but they listened. My daughter, Elise, used to visit every few weeks. Quick hello, quicker goodbye. Busy woman. Career, marriage, child. After her divorce, she called more. Soft voice. Needing a place to land. I offered her my home before she even asked. She didn't cry. She thanked me, but in that brisk, practical way. I'll make sure everything's handled legally, Mom. Just sign where it says. It was a Tuesday. Gray sky. My roses were blooming pale yellow that week. I handed her the deed. She kissed my cheek like someone closing a business deal. Not cruel. Just efficient. She moved in fast. Boxes everywhere. A cleaning crew. New light bulbs, new locks. She took the master bedroom. Said I'd be more comfortable in the guest suite, fewer stairs. I nodded. Of course. She replaced the curtains in the kitchen. Took down the hand-painted calendar Thomas made me the year before he passed. It's just old paper, Mom. We can digitize all this. Digitize. Like you could shrink 42 years into a folder and rename it Archive. I didn't fight it. I told myself change was good. She brought her daughter, Lila, too. Lila was sweet mostly. Quiet like me. But even she began to mimic her mother's tone. Clipped. Efficient. Polite like a stranger. Meals became rushed. Microwaved. Measured. No one asked for seconds. One night I made my famous corn chowder, the one Thomas loved. Elise tasted it, gave a thin smile and said a little too much cream. We're watching cholesterol now. I ate alone that night. In the sunroom. The chair still rocked the way Thomas used to do it when he read aloud. No one sat with me. No one asked about my day. My quilting supplies were boxed for storage. Her office needed the space, she said. The roses outside began to wilt. I hadn't touched them in weeks. The new schedule ruled everything. Groceries on Thursdays. Laundry access by text request. A shared digital calendar Elise posted on the fridge. My name wasn't on it. There was even a rule for the thermostat. 68 by day, 64 by night. Efficiency, she called it. I started sleeping in socks. The guest bathroom became mine. It had no window, no warmth. Still had one of those stiff hotel-like mats with rubber backing. I placed a rose-shaped soap dish in there. The next day it was gone. Elise prefers neutral scents, Lila whispered. She gets migraines. So I stopped lighting candles. Stopped humming. Stopped being someone who took up space. One afternoon, I passed the mirror and barely recognized the woman. Neat bun. No lipstick. Eyes pulled back, searching for a voice. I sat at the kitchen table with my old tea mug. They had new mugs now. White ones with geometric handles. I watched the steam curl. Watched the shadows on the tile shift with the late sun. I wasn't angry. Not yet. Just absent. They weren't cruel. Not exactly. But they had no use for me. And somehow that was worse. The house still looked the same from the outside. White siding, blue shutters, porch swing that creaked like a memory. But inside, it had become a museum curated by people who had forgotten what the exhibits meant. Sometimes at night, I'd open my drawer and run my fingers along the old photo. Thomas holding Elise on her 4th birthday. The way she looked at him. The way she used to look at me. Now she barely looked at all. One night, I left my tea mug in the sink. The next morning it was gone. I asked. Elise said it cracked. Thrown out. Just like that. I checked the trash. It wasn't there. It wasn't cracked. It just didn't match the new kitchen. I was never truly lonely. Just quietly replaced. And I told myself, it's fine. It's her house now. I should be grateful. But something in the walls whispered. You built this. You kept it warm. You don't owe them your silence. Not yet. But soon. Very soon. It was 2 weeks before the wedding when it happened. Nothing loud. Nothing that would echo. Just a click. A screen. A name that wasn't mine. I was scrolling through my emails. Trying to find the registry link. I thought maybe I could send a small gift. A blender. A towel set. Something neutral. I opened their wedding website. Muted blush tones. Stock photos of hands holding hands. Then the seating chart loaded. They'd made it digital. Names typed neatly inside pale gold boxes. I wasn't in the front row. I wasn't in the middle. I wasn't even by the cake. I found myself next to a name I didn't recognize. Darla something. Her box said, family friend from yoga. Mine said, Beatrice Caldwell. Not mom. Not even mother of the groom. Just my full name. Like I was a stranger. Like someone they had to include, but barely. I stared at it for a while. Didn't move. Didn't blink. Then I noticed something odd. There was a table labeled reserved. And beside it, a blank box. Just white space. I hovered over it. It flickered. Then flashed a tiny error. Name not visible. I zoomed in. Squinted. And there, faintly behind the layers, like someone had tried to erase it, but not quite succeeded, was the phrase, Unwanted Relic. It was so faint it almost wasn't there. But I saw it. Clear as day. I closed the laptop. Carefully. Like it might explode. Then I sat back in my chair. The one with the floral cushion and the missing button. The one he gave me before he moved out. I stared at the wallpaper. The soft green vines curling into each other. So much silence in that room. But everything inside me was screaming. I didn't cry. Not yet. Not because I didn't want to. I think part of me already had. Years ago. In small, invisible ways. Like when he stopped asking what I was reading. Or when he told me, casually, that she didn't want a big family feel at the wedding. Back then I nodded. Said, of course dear. Swallowed it whole. But now? Now it tasted like acid. I went to the guest room. Opened the old chest. There was a letter inside. It was addressed to them. Handwritten. Cream stationery. Soft cursive. I wrote it months ago. The day I heard the engagement news. It said all the things I didn't know how to say out loud. How proud I was. How I hoped she would cherish his laughter. How I remembered him spinning in the backyard. Arms stretched wide shouting, I love you this much. I never sent it. I kept it sealed. I told myself it would be better to hand deliver it. Or maybe read it at the rehearsal dinner. Now it just sat there. Heavy in my palm. An envelope filled with a voice no one wanted to hear. I walked to the hallway mirror. Stared at myself. The lines near my mouth. The gray near my temples. I touched the glass. Not to fix anything. Just to prove I was still there. Still real. Still standing. Still mother. Even if they didn't say it out loud. Later that evening, I opened my social media. Something I rarely do. Too much noise. Too many faces I don't know. But a post caught my eye. A story. One of the bridesmaids had tagged the venue. Laughing faces. Champagne. Underneath in white letters. No worries, she's way in the back, LOL, grinning face with sweat. It was a video. They were talking about me. I wasn't in the frame. But my name was in the comments. Someone replied. OMG, that's his mom, right? So awkward, grimacing face. I didn't watch the rest. I turned the phone over and pushed it across the table. Then I went outside. No shoes. Just my robe and the night air. I looked up at the stars. And for the first time in years, I didn't make a wish. There was a sound behind me. The mailbox lid falling shut. It had rusted from the inside. I walked toward it. Inside, nothing. Just a draft of old dust and one cobweb. Still, I reached in. Found something wedged in the back. A slip of paper. It was an old note. Folded and yellowing. From me. It must have slipped out years ago. It read, "If I don't say it enough, I love you more than the sky." Signed in the corner. Mom. No reply underneath. Just space. I brought it back in and placed it beside the sealed letter. 2 different times. Same silence. It was then I realized. Love that isn't received still leaves a mark. Even when it's invisible. The house creaked once as I turned off the lights. The windows whistled softly. Somewhere in the kitchen, the second cup of tea still sat cold. I didn't throw it away. I just left it there. Right where it always was. But this time, I knew it was the last one. The first time I noticed, it was his voice. Not what he said, just the weight of it. Light. Polite. Hollow. "Hey, Mom. Can't talk long." He used to call me after class. Tell me everything. Professors, girls, frozen pizza disasters. Now, it was just weather and small talk. 5 minutes max. If I tried to stretch it, I'd hear her in the background. Tell her we have to go. And he would. Every time. The quilt I made came back in a brown box. No note. No return address. Just my name, crossed out. I had stitched it for their first apartment. Cream cotton. Little symbols on every square. A teacup, a book, a sunset. Things he used to say reminded him of me. I stood there staring at the box. Not angry. Just confused. Then I folded the quilt and placed it in the attic. Right beside the mobile from his nursery. Last Thanksgiving, I made his favorite, rosemary roast chicken. I waited all day. The table was set. Candles lit. His seat angled just right. At 4:32, I got a text. "Sorry, plans changed. Maybe next week." No call. Just a line on a screen. I stared at the food until it cooled. Then I packed it away. He used to say my chicken tasted like comfort. Now it sat in the fridge like a forgotten thought. I mailed him a birthday card. Handwritten. I even tucked in a vintage pin I found. One that looked like the compass he used to wear on his backpack. It came back unopened. Stamped. Moved address unknown. But I'd just sent them a check the month before. Same address. No issue then. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe not. I didn't ask. Didn't want to sound dramatic. That's what people say when older women ask too many questions. She once posted a photo of him holding a birthday cake. Smiling. Surrounded. Hashtag chosen family only. I wasn't tagged. I wasn't even told. He used to bake cakes with me. Chocolate with raspberry jam in the middle. We'd make a mess of the kitchen. He'd lick the spoon and say, "You're the only recipe I'll ever need." I stared at that photo for a long time. He looked happy, but not like the boy I raised. The tone of her voice when she called me was always clipped. Like I was a meeting she had to get through. She never asked about my life. Just logistics. Time. Place. RSVP. Once, I tried to tell her about the roses blooming in the backyard. She cut me off. "Sorry, I have a Zoom in 5. They were his favorite roses. He planted them with me when he was 10. Red ones. He named them. Firecracker. Crimson Queen. Loveblood. They still bloomed. He never asked about them again. I made him a memory jar once. Wrote down little stories on slips of paper. Moments he might forget. Moments that made him him. First day of school. The time he cried over a wounded bird. The day he lost his first tooth in an apple and laughed like it was magic. I wrapped it in blue paper. Tied it with twine. Set it on his doorstep. He never mentioned it. When I asked if we could meet before the wedding, just coffee, nothing formal, he said, "I think it's best if we keep things low pressure." I said okay. Because what else could I say? I didn't ask again. I didn't want to become someone he avoided. He used to hug me with both arms and his whole heart. Now he air-kissed my cheek, barely touching me. Like I was delicate. Or in the way. I wanted to ask him, "When did you start loving me in pieces?" But I didn't. Because silence had become our shared language. The little gift I bought for her, a simple locket, stayed wrapped in my drawer. She never asked if I'd be giving a speech. Never called me Mom. Just Beatrice. And always with a tight smile. Once she said, "You did your part. Now it's our turn." I smiled back. But something in me folded. Like linen. Clean. And used. Put away for good. I tried to blame myself. Tried to replay every conversation. Every moment I could have been too much. Too soft. Too present. Too mother. But the truth settled like dust in my chest. Slow. Inevitable. This wasn't sudden. It was 1,000 cuts. Easy to excuse. Until they weren't. I wore the same dress I wore to his graduation. Navy blue. Elbow sleeves. He said I looked elegant in it, back then. Said I reminded him of dignity. This time, no one said anything. The venue was all glass and gold. Rows of chairs. Soft violin music. Laughter drifting like perfume. Nothing about it felt like my son. Not the white rose boutonniere. Not the chandelier cake. Not the way he avoided my eyes when I arrived. I walked in alone. Held my small clutch like armor. Inside it was the gift. Still wrapped. A pocket watch. Vintage silver. Engraved. For time well spent. He'd never seen it. Still hasn't. I found my seat. 3rd row from the back. By the kitchen doors. The card was already placed. No mistake. No smudge. Unwanted relic. Typed. Not handwritten. Intentional. I picked it up. Turned it over. No one noticed. Or maybe they did, and looked away. The ceremony started. He walked down the aisle smiling. She glowed in lace and sparkle. They held hands and made promises. The kind I used to whisper to him when he cried as a boy. "I'll always be here. I won't leave. You are not alone." Funny. How those words vanish when the lights come on. I clapped with the others. Smiled when they kissed. Bit the inside of my cheek until it bled. Not out of rage. Just to feel something real. Flashback. He was 4. Wearing a cape made from an old pillowcase. Running circles around the coffee table shouting, "I'm not scared of anything. Mom is here." I laughed so hard I cried. He wiped my tears with his sleeve. That was the first time he called me his hero. Now he stood beside another woman. Holding her hand like it was home. He didn't look at me. Not once. Dinner was served. I moved the name card aside and set my napkin on my lap. Didn't touch the bread. Didn't sip the wine. People laughed around me. Talked about honeymoons, careers, destination plans. No one asked where I was from. No one asked who I was. And I didn't offer. The speeches began. Her father thanked her mother for being the rock of our family. The maid of honor told stories about how she changed the groom for the better. Someone made a joke about surviving the in-laws. Everyone laughed. I smiled. The kind of smile you wear when your dress is too tight, but you pretend it fits. Flashback. He was 11. Woke from a nightmare. Said he saw me floating away in a balloon, waving goodbye. I held him all night. Whispered, "You won't lose me, love. You're mine." He fell asleep with his cheek on my chest. Like it was the only place that made sense. Now he stood beside his bride. Confident. Calm. Complete. As if I was never the place he began. I excused myself before the cake. Said I needed air. Walked through the hallway, heels silent on marble. Found a mirror near the coat rack. Looked at myself. Same eyes. Same chin he inherited. Same heart. Just quieter now. I opened my clutch. The gift sat there. Still wrapped. Edges soft from being held too long. I touched the ribbon. Tightened it instead of loosening. Some things aren't meant to be opened. I went back to my seat. Watched them dance. She whispered in his ear. He laughed. Held her close. Like he used to hold my hand in parking lots. With trust. With certainty. I folded my napkin. Straightened my spine. One-word lines echoed inside me. Empty. Forgotten. Perfect. I waited until the music changed. Until the lights dimmed. Until no one was looking. Then I stood. Walked past the photo booth. Past the memory wall. Past their smiles frozen in frames. And I left. No coat. No goodbye. Just a quiet exit. Like dust leaving the air. Have you ever remembered something small, just when everything felt like it was falling apart? I did. It was the sound of his tiny voice saying, "Don't leave me behind, Mama." And I realized he already had. I didn't speak when I left the wedding, didn't slam a door, didn't even shut it. Just walked through it like I'd been meaning to leave all my life. No one followed. No one asked. And maybe that hurt more than anything else. At home, I turned on one light. Just the hallway. Didn't need the rest. I took off the dress. Hung it carefully. It wasn't the dress's fault. I sat at the edge of the bed and placed the gift beside me. Still wrapped. Still waiting. I opened the bottom drawer of my nightstand. Took out a small box. Inside, my marriage certificate, my son's birth certificate, and 2 bank statements. I took the scissors and cut the shared account card in half. Then in half again. Until it looked like silver confetti. The next morning, I called the bank. Closed the family savings account. The one I kept open all these years just in case. I never told him. He never asked. The balance wasn't huge, but it was enough to feel like a chapter. I transferred it. To me. For once. In the afternoon, I walked to the mailbox. Opened it. Pulled out a stack of flyers and a utility bill. Then I took a screwdriver. And removed the metal plate with our last name on it. Caldwell. He hadn't used it in years. Hadn't claimed it in public. I carried the name. Like a flag. Like a weight. I wrapped the plate in a dish towel. Placed it in the back of the kitchen drawer. Didn't throw it away. But I didn't want to see it anymore. Silent scene. No music. No monologue. Just me in the garden. Cutting every rose from the bush he planted. One by one. No hesitation. No poetry. Just pruning. I placed them in a ceramic bowl. Set them outside the front door. No note. By evening they were gone. I boxed up the baby blanket. The one he came home from the hospital in. And the photo of us at the science fair. He's holding the volcano we made. His smile was gummy and wild. Mine was tired and proud. I put them in a soft gray box labeled private. And moved it to the highest shelf in the hall closet. High enough that I wouldn't reach for it by accident. That night, I sat at the dining table. Lit a single candle. Not for mood. For memory. I placed the pocket watch beside it. Unwrapped it carefully. I read the engraving again. For time well spent. Then I flipped it shut. And placed it in an envelope. I didn't address it to anyone. Just wrote 2 words. No return. The next morning, I walked 3 blocks. To his apartment. I didn't ring the bell. Didn't knock. Didn't wait. Just placed the envelope at his door. Turned around. And left. I didn't cry. Not because I was strong. Because there was nothing left to pour. At noon, I stood at the DMV. Took a number. Waited in line. When they called me, I slid my ID across the counter. I'd like to change my name back. The woman looked up. Her eyes were soft. She didn't ask why. She just said, "Maiden name." I told her. Margaret Lane. She typed it in. Hit save. Stamped the form. That was it. 27 years of erasure, undone in a click. I walked out with a new ID. Same face. New name. Felt like I'd finally left a room I wasn't welcome in. I made tea that night. Just 1 cup. Only one. And I drank it all. No second one waiting beside it. The silence felt cleaner now. Like it was mine. Have you ever stayed quiet just to keep the peace? And then one day realized. Peace never asked you to. People did. I didn't announce any of it. Didn't post online. Didn't tell a soul. Because dignity doesn't demand an audience. Only clarity. I went to the attic. Took the old quilt I'd made for them. Folded it carefully. Tied it with a ribbon. Then I donated it. To a women's shelter. Someone else could use warmth. Someone who wanted it. That night, I opened the letter I never sent. The one I wrote to them after the engagement. I didn't read it. Just stared at the folds. Then I burned it. Page by page. Watched the flame curl the corners like petals. Watched the smoke disappear. And when it was done, I exhaled. Long. Slow. Certain. I didn't slam the door. I just closed it. Finally. It started with a voicemail I almost deleted. An old friend from church. Haven't heard her voice in years. Margaret, I thought you should know. That's how betrayals often begin. With someone trying to spare you the worst parts. But truth never travels in soft clothing. She'd attended the wedding. Friend of the bride's family. Didn't know I was there until someone pointed. She said she overheard a conversation during dinner. 2 guests whispering. That's the mom? I thought she wasn't all there. Yeah, they said she has memory problems. Something early onset. Oh, that makes sense. Poor thing. Poor thing. Those 2 words burrowed deeper than any insult. Because they weren't cruel. They were pity. And pity is the final shovelful of dirt when someone's decided to bury your story. I didn't call my son. Didn't demand an explanation. Didn't raise my voice. Instead, I opened my filing cabinet. 3rd drawer. Behind the utility receipts and appliance manuals. I found the envelope. Sealed. Labeled. Confidential. Cognitive evaluation. March 3rd. It had come months ago. Routine. My doctor said I was sharp as ever. Results clean. No decline. No concern. I had meant to give it to him. To reassure him. To show I was fine. But I'd never gotten the chance. He never asked. Now I knew why. I sat at the kitchen table. Opened the envelope. Read every line. Normal. Healthy. Stable. All the words he didn't want anyone to see. I logged into my insurance portal. Not because I doubted. Because I needed to see what he'd done. A form had been submitted months prior. Under his name. Emergency contact. A statement filed. Concerns regarding short-term memory, emotional regulation, and confusion. Possible early cognitive decline. Requesting preemptive documentation to safeguard financial decisions. He used my birth date. My address. My trust. Filed it like it was routine. Like I was slowly unraveling. And he was the thread that kept me together. But I wasn't unraveling. He was rewriting. I went to the safe. The old one I kept behind the bedroom curtain. Combination still the same. His birthday. Inside were 2 things. My will. And the property deed to the lake cabin. I flipped through the pages. My signature still there. But something had changed. The secondary beneficiary line no longer listed me. Not in full. My percentage was reduced. Shifted into something called family-controlled oversight. I blinked. Read it again. He'd made me a silent partner. In my own legacy. I drove to the county clerk's office. Requested a copy of the latest deed transfer. The clerk raised her eyebrow. You sure you want to see this? I nodded. Didn't flinch. She handed it to me. Fresh ink. Clear name. Owner. Daniel Caldwell and spouse. Transfer type. Parental gift / non-taxable. I never signed it. But I recognized the signature. It was mine. Or something close enough. They forged it. I didn't feel rage. Not the kind that yells. The kind that freezes. Like stepping into a house that used to be yours. And realizing the locks have all changed. He didn't just exclude me from a wedding. He stripped me from my own narrative. Made me into a liability. An excuse. A story they could tell to avoid guilt. She didn't want me in the photos. So he made me questionable. He didn't want to share credit. So he made me forgettable. And now, I wasn't just unwanted. I was untrustworthy. I thought of the pocket watch. The one he never opened. Engraved with time well spent. But this was time misspent. Time disguised. Time stolen. I gathered everything. The forged deed. The insurance report. The doctor's letter. The voicemail transcript. Placed them in a file folder. Marked it. Truth. And slid it under my bed. Not to act. Not to sue. Just so I wouldn't forget what forgetting looks like. I poured a glass of water. Stood by the window. Watched the breeze move the curtains. The light fell on a framed photo of him at 5. Missing tooth. Sticky fingers. Eyes full of wonder. I touched the glass. Not for comfort. For distance. That boy was gone. And the man who stood in his place had turned me into fiction. They didn't just forget me. They erased me. That night, I dreamed of handwriting. Mine. slipping off a page. Letter by letter. By morning, I could still see it. The line where my name used to be. A blank space. Framed in gold. The first choice I made was not to respond. Not with fury. Not with evidence. Not with shame. Just quiet. The kind of quiet that doesn't ask to be understood. It just settles in and starts moving things around. I gave the wedding file to no one. Didn't mail it. Didn't confront. Didn't warn. I placed it in a fireproof box labeled Personal Archives and locked it away. Truth doesn't expire. But sometimes, dignity grows stronger in silence. I stood in the garden with shears in my hand. The rose bushes were bare now. Thorns without memory. I uprooted them. One by one. Roots dry. Soil brittle. Then I planted something new. Foxglove. Clematis. Night-blooming jasmine. Flowers that don't beg to be noticed. They arrive when they're ready. And they bloom in their own rhythm. Just like me. I started volunteering at the community library. Thursday mornings. Children's reading hour. At first, I just watched. Then I began reading aloud. Soft stories. Quiet animals. Books with mothers who stayed. A little boy came up to me one day, clutching a broken plastic dinosaur. "Can you fix this?" I nodded. Not because I could. Because someone needed to believe I might. The locket I'd bought for her? Still wrapped in tissue, buried in the bottom drawer. I removed the paper. Opened it. Held it in my palm. Inside nothing. An empty frame on each side. Like a question that never got asked. I polished it. And donated it to the thrift shop down the hill. Maybe someone would put their mother in it. Or a memory worth holding. The pocket watch had never been claimed. So I kept it. But I changed the engraving. Scraped out for time well spent. Carved in something new. For the time I kept for myself. I placed it on my bedside table. Let it tick. Soft. Steady. Mine. I legally updated everything. Name. Deed. Will. I wrote a new version. No beneficiaries. No inheritances. Just a letter at the front. If you're reading this, I lived a full life. And I chose who I gave my love to. Not by blood. By worth. One Saturday, I walked to the bus stop with a canvas bag. Inside, the gift I never gave him. Still wrapped in navy paper. But now it had a new tag. To someone who still values time. At the library, I placed it on the donation table. Left before they unwrapped it. I didn't need to know where it went. Only that it didn't stay with me. I stopped wearing my wedding ring. Not because it hurt. Because it no longer matched my hands. I left it on a stone by the river. Watched the sun catch its edge. Watched it become part of the water's memory. Some things should return to silence. One evening, I invited a few neighbors over. Women I'd known for years but only in passing. We drank tea in the yard. Watched the jasmine open under moonlight. Someone asked if I had children. I smiled. Sipped my tea. And said, I had a son once. No pity. No questions. Just silence. Respected. Would you have walked away? Or taken everything back? I chose neither. I simply stepped out of the room. And locked the door behind me. Not to punish. To preserve. I found an old photo in a drawer. Him at 6 holding a frog, grinning like he'd discovered gold. I placed it in a new frame. Set it on the shelf. Not as a shrine. As a story. I raised a good boy. What he became wasn't mine to hold. A letter came in the mail. From his wife. No return address. No apology. Just 3 sentences. He misses you. He's confused. We didn't mean to hurt you. I folded it once. Placed it in the same fireproof box. Didn't answer. Didn't react. Because some letters belong to the past. Even if they arrive in the present. The mailbox out front now says Margaret Lane again. No hyphen. No parentheses. Just me. Clean. Unclaimed. My hands don't shake anymore. Not when I touch the old things. Not when I tell my story. Because now it belongs to me. He showed up on a Sunday. No warning. No call. Just the sound of gravel shifting under slow tires. Then silence. I watched from the kitchen window as he stepped out. Same slouched shoulders. Older now. Thinner. Like life had been leaning on him. I didn't rush to the door. Didn't panic. Just waited. Let him walk to the porch. Let him stand there, not sure where to knock. He looked at the mailbox. Saw the name. Not his. He hesitated. Then lifted his hand. 3 slow knocks. Like he didn't want to be heard. I opened the door. Didn't speak. Just looked at him. He smiled. Crooked. Hesitant. The kind you use when you know your year's too late. Hi, Mom. My name sounded unfamiliar in his mouth. Too soft. Too careful. He looked past me, as if expecting the house to be the same. But there were no family photos. No extra coat on the rack. No warmth waiting. Just air. And me. I was in the area, he said. Then quickly added, I wanted to see you. I stepped aside. Barely. He entered like a guest. Eyes scanning everything. Noticing what was missing. The teacups were different. The couch was new. And my face had changed. It no longer bent toward him. He sat across from me at the kitchen table. Hands folded like a student. Voice quiet. I've been thinking about you. I didn't answer. He cleared his throat. She left. 1 word. 1 crack. Gone. I didn't flinch. He looked at the shelf. Spotted the photo of him holding the frog at 6 years old. Smiled. You kept that one. I looked at it too. Then turned it slightly. Away from him. He talked for a while. Things about the job. How hard it's been. That he missed holidays. How fast everything fell apart. I nodded when it seemed polite. But not once did he say what I was waiting to hear. Not. I'm sorry. Not. I lied. Not. I hurt you. Just stories. Like those could be stitches. He asked if I still had the watch. I tilted my head. The one you were going to give me. The silver one. I didn't answer. Because by the time he cared, I'd already claimed it for myself. He looked around again. Eyes softer now. Weaker. Things feel different. I said. They are. He reached for my hand. I didn't pull away. But I didn't close the gap either. He rested his fingertips on mine. Barely touching. Can we start again? For a moment. I saw the boy. The one who fell asleep in my lap after fevers. The one who built pillow forts and cried when his turtle died. The one who used to say, if I ever get rich, I'll buy you a castle. That boy was nowhere in this man. But I missed him. God, I missed him. Then I remembered. The forged documents. The whispered lies. The blank chairs. The cold dinners. The envelope I burned. And the name card on my wedding seat. Unwanted Relic. For a moment, I pitied him. Then I remembered who I was. I stood. Poured him a glass of water. Set it on the table. Then I stepped back. Waited. He looked up. Saw something in my eyes he hadn't seen before. A wall. Not cruel. Just firm. Like a door that wasn't going to open again. He finished the water. Placed the glass in the sink. Didn't ask to stay. Didn't ask for anything. Just stood at the door. Hands in his pockets. I don't know how to fix this, he said. I replied. You don't have to. He waited for something more. Maybe forgiveness. Maybe warmth. I gave him neither. Only this. Take care of yourself. He left slowly. Stopped at the edge of the steps. I'll call, he said. I said nothing. He turned. Walked to the car. Got in. Didn't drive away for a long time. I closed the door before he could look back. That evening he left a voicemail. Something rambling. Soft apologies. Half admissions. I listened once. Then deleted it. No rage. No satisfaction. Just release. Do you believe quiet dignity is stronger than revenge? I do. Because silence builds walls words can't climb. And peace, once chosen, doesn't need witnesses. Summer came back like it had somewhere better to be. Fast. Dry. Relentless. The garden bloomed all at once. Jasmine along the back fence. The foxglove tall and defiant. The clematis curling toward the sun like it had no shame. Everything bloomed without asking. And so did I. The chair from the wedding. The one they placed me in. With that card folded like a verdict. Had been sitting in the corner of my shed. For months I didn't touch it. Didn't even look at it. Just left it there like a wound that had scabbed over. But one morning, I pulled it out, wiped off the dust, took my time, painted it gold. Not bright, muted, worn-looking, like something ancient that still endured. I set it on my porch, facing east, where the light finds you first. I sit in it sometimes. No tea, no book, just breath. No one calls me Unwanted Relic anymore, because I never was. They just ran out of names that fit me. I still read to the children on Thursdays. One of them asked me if I had a daughter. I smiled, said, "Not yet," and kept reading. There's a river nearby. Nothing special, shallow, a little muddy, always humming. I walk there once a week. Drop something in every time. An old receipt. A copy of the RSVP card. A photo of the three of us from some long ago summer. Each one drifts. Each one disappears. People say rivers wash things away. I say they carry them back to silence. I started wearing bright colors again. Turmeric yellow. Wine red. Storm blue. A woman at the library asked if I had somewhere special to go. I said, "No. I'm already there." I never got another letter from him. Never heard from her again. I don't check the mailbox for names I don't miss. I don't answer unknown numbers. My phone rings less. But my peace speaks more. The house feels different now. Not quieter, but intentionally still. I rearranged the rooms. Hung paintings I actually like. Moved the couch to face the window, not the door. No longer waiting. Just living. The night-blooming jasmine opened all at once last week. Filled the yard with something close to grace. I stood out there barefoot. Let the scent wrap around me like a question already answered. I kept one rose. From the bush he planted. Pressed it in a book. Didn't label it. Just left it there. Let it rest inside pages that belong to someone else's story. Some roots you don't pull. You just stop watering them. I've learned peace isn't something you wait to be handed. It isn't granted like an apology. It isn't the reward at the end of someone else's regret. It's what you claim. When the world looks you in the eye and tries to forget what you've survived. And you say, "No, I remember." I walk differently now. Not lighter. Just without hesitation. I don't ask for permission to speak. Or sit. Or stay. Especially not in rooms where no one saved me a seat. The envelope I mailed to myself. The one I labeled, to the woman who stayed. Arrived last week. I opened it slowly. Inside was a single note. In my own handwriting. You did not vanish. You were simply too solid for the shape they made for you. I smiled. Folded it. Placed it on the mantel. A letter from myself. To myself. No one else needed to read it. Some nights, I still think of him. Not out of longing. Out of clarity. He didn't take my voice. He just stopped listening to it. Now I speak anyway. Even if no one hears. Especially then. I was never the echo. I was the voice they tried to silence.